Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that Singapore has cordial relations with the US, Europe, Ukraine, and Russia, to what extent have the recent events put our efforts out of balance? And how can we maintain our interests vis-à-vis all the parties?
Mr. Speaker, I thank Mr. Giam for those salient questions. We do have excellent relations with the US, with the EU, with Russia, and of course we have diplomatic relations with Ukraine as well. Your question on balance, I would address by bringing us back to first principles, that we do not take sides, we uphold principles. And in this case, the principles at stake are independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity. And I explained just now that Singapore's foreign policy is consistent, is coherent. In fact, it is almost always predictable. And I can tell you now from experience over the past 6 to 7 years, with the privilege of representing Singapore on stage, is that big powers and our neighbors and middle powers have also gotten used to the fact that it's not personal, it's professional, it's principled, and we take a position based on these principles which we believe to be essential for our long-term national interests. And I can also tell you, although there isn't time to go through all the details now, that even in my tenure over the past 6 to 7 years, I've had to say no on occasion to every single superpower. But it has not stopped us from being able to sit at the table, look at each other's eyes, shake hands, explain where we differ, why we differ, and at the same time to pursue areas of cooperation where our interests align and where our principles are shared.
I'm told that for small countries, we do hold true to the principle of international law, and we denounce the notion of might is right. But at the same time, we still need to know the lay of the land and navigate our way through. So what are the implications in terms of international order, particularly for Singapore and smaller states, given this particular crisis that's unraveling before us?
The abrogation of international law and norms is a clear and present danger, especially for small states like us, and that's why we have had to take such a principled stand. And as I said, standing up for principle is not cost-free. So we also have to be prepared for that. But if the world continues to watch with folded arms, we're headed into a much more dangerous world.
The United Nations, I think, has always been an important institution, at least for setting the benchmark against aggression. But would this send a message that it will be difficult to restrain big powers from engaging in acts of aggression? And is there more the world community can do in this respect?
Thank you, Mr. Nair. It is always difficult to restrain big powers or emerging big powers who will always give precedence to their national interests, defined on their terms. That's why we are such staunch supporters of international law and the United Nations. We have to, because the alternative is might is right, or the strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must.
Would the Minister be able to clarify or explain what does MFA thinks about Russia's statement that they will be putting nuclear forces on high alert?
Again, to express our hope that there is so much more to lose from letting this situation get out of control. So our hope is that restraint will apply. There will be an immediate cessation of hostilities, of violence. I believe there have been some arrangements for negotiations to occur between Ukraine and Russia at the border with Belarus, perhaps today or maybe even as we speak. I hope those negotiations will bear some fruit.